Here's Brody Brazil.
Hey, just keep in mind, I am a massive A's fan when I say this. So I'm a huge Sacramento Kings fan, and I still remember back then when we almost moved to Seattle and we renamed the Supersonics.
Right.
And I remember one big thing that I remember that us King fans had done that unfortunately the A's fans haven't done. And keep in mind, there's a lot of similarity with happening because we had a horrible ownership. We had the Maloofs that were, I'm sure you remember them. They were, horrible owners at the end, and they were trying to push out the King fans. But I still remember that we still sold out every game, and we came through every game with packed houses every single night. I still remember that David Stern had said that because of the fan support, that was a reason why,
right.
He put his neck on to keep the Kings there. So I kind of feel like, as much as I despise John Fisher with every fiber in my body, I still kind of have a feeling of, if we had just came through that, a lot more than what we had done, that maybe it would have been, maybe Manfred would have sang the David Stern tune. I was just thinking about that today, that, it might have been a different story if we packed the house the way that the Kings did. And
it's an interesting thought.
I don't know if that's true or not, but
yeah.
I was curious what your thoughts were on that.
It's an interesting hypothesis. I think your first point was probably the best part about it. There's similar situations with a lot of very different details. Yeah. And I don't know intimately like what the Kings were doing and spending on their teams over all those years, but I mean, even think about in the early 2000s, the heyday, right? Chris Webber and company and Peja and all that and Vlade. So, I think it was different in that team wasn't flipped overnight. In Oakland, I think one of the hard things for fans was that just when they started getting attached to something, it all went away. And it all went away literally in one winter and one off season. And then they start from scratch again. And so I think the depletion of fans was a little bit more obvious and telegraphed in this situation. I understand what you're saying in that, the perspective and the outside image of all this. And it's easy for outside fans to criticize and say, well, look at A's attendance over the last couple of years. Yeah, well, I mean, it's the chicken and the egg thing, right? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? And what's the real root reasoning behind that? But I agree with you, and I think, the Kings situation was far different. I mean, look, it was the NBA's Board of Governors and then owners, which all voted down relocation to Seattle. And that's a city that they wanted to go back to. They already had a team there that had worked, and they regretted taking the Sonics away. And that was after opportunities in, I don't know if you remember this, Virginia Beach and Anaheim.
I remember it very well.
Yeah.
And Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
For a spell.
Yeah. So
and then they were very quick to go to Anaheim.
Right. Right. Yeah. Which is L.A., which would have been a third team in L.A., but they already had an arena. They already had Honda Center, it was, turnkey and ready to go. So in a lot of weird ways, that Kings situation, they had a sale to Sacramento done. And I don't know, you're in San Francisco. I don't know if you recall, the San Francisco Giants had a sale to an ownership group in Tampa Bay done.
Oh, yeah.
But in those instances, baseball voted against the Giants move. The NBA owners voted against the Kings move. Obviously, it was a 30-0 unanimous vote to allow the A's to move. Right? And I think that's among the different parts of the situation is, David Stern, rest in peace, by the way.
Right.
Different person, different operation than the way that maybe Rob Manfred is running Major League Baseball right now. So to your point, even if we were looking at packed Coliseum crowds over the last handful of years, but again, it would have had to have, Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Marcus Semien, they would still kind of have to be on the A's maybe. But what would that alternate reality look like? I think you bring an interesting point. It can't be evaluated because it didn't play out that way,
Exactly.
That's good stuff. I thought about those two a lot, but I'd never really thought about that parallel, So
yeah, and then if you don't mind, another on a similar, on the same topic, I remember that I was hearing a lot from Casey about how there's a bunch of ownership groups who want to who want to buy the A's, and they're all lining up, and the whole nine. I mean, I'm just putting it this way: if I had all that money, and if I want to buy the A's, I mean, I would have been so public with it. I would have not have hidden in the shadows here. I mean, I'm just surprised that someone, wasn't more there to show that there's someone who wants to keep him. And so that's what I don't understand either. I've been just shocked that because I do believe that there were people. I just don't understand why they didn't come out more, out like in the shadows and make themselves known to put more pressure on baseball to keep him here.
I'll tell you why.
But that was another rumor thought. Yeah.
I think it's because the same reason why, if you're at a restaurant, you don't want to be too picky about the food. This is gross.
Right.
They'll spit in your food, right? No, in a sense of, if you're somebody who eventually does want to own, if you do want to own a Major League Baseball team someday, whether it's a current team or an expansion team, and you have the money and the ways and means to do that, I think you have to go into this so carefully where you don't step on anybody's toes. And
that's a very valid point.
John Fisher flat out said, not for sale, not for sale, not for sale. And if you're the one that's persistent, it's almost like pursuing a partner, somebody you're interested in, right? And if you're too persistent about it, they're going to be like, please leave me alone. Like you're way too pushy. So I think that's the real reason, is that anybody that was a prospective, baseball owner, and again, they have the resources to do it, but they really have to play chess and not checkers when it comes to how they appear interested, how they don't get taken advantage of in a purchase situation or an expansion situation, and how baseball doesn't look at them and say, we're not even dealing with you anymore. Stop it, go away, you're too annoying. You kind of have to play by their rules a little bit.